Welcome back to the Illuminated Path. This is episode 56. What are we talking about today?
We are talking about the power of saying no.
Mm.
We'll get into that.
Yeah. So we're in the porch. We got a lot of crickets.
Yeah, they're out there today.
I don't know
I don't
why.
even know if they're crickets. They might be something else. It's
Middle of the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, we might have some background noise, but we're on the home stretch. We got our wedding coming up
in 23 days. So we're doing a few episodes in advance because we're going on a honeymoon and we don't want to take a break from the podcast. So we're recording some things in advance for you. Happy to do that. But yeah.
So hopefully when we get back, we'll start working on the basement and getting our studio set up.
Yeah, I'm excited.
How is the week?
Good. I burnt my hand very badly. Long story short, oil on a paper towel that I was using to wipe the Blackstone with got on my hand and I have 2nd-degree burns. If you happen to be watching this on YouTube, I'm sorry. I'm trying to kind of keep it covered because it's not the most pleasant looking.
I don't think you need to worry about that.
It hurt very badly.
Yeah.
It's going to take a bit of time to heal. So yeah, that's been my week. Interesting. Was not expecting or planning to have to deal with a burn, but it's all good.
Yeah. Well, we got you the stuff, to heal it well. And luckily it's not on your hand with your ring.
Yeah. Really. What about you?
I'm high on life right now.
Tell them why.
So I just passed my first evaluation account.
Yay.
Which is kind of like the hard part. Like after that, the rules get much more lenient. So that means that I am officially funded with $50,000. I'm probably going to aim for $1 million. I can have up to 20 accounts at 50,000. So I'm officially a professional trader, which is very exciting. And also I'm just happy because, I think I found a really good community with those people and I've been able to help those people. I actually ran a stream for my mentor because he was traveling one day and it's going very well. I really kind of found my confidence in that. And I think this is probably my last update on the trading journey. But yeah, it's been about 5-6 months and I'm finally at that point where I'm able to get payouts and do all that. So it's very exciting. And just a reminder, it's never too late. Start something new, try something new. That was a total career change that has been an absolute blast and very straightforward, but also the hardest thing I've ever done. And I'm very excited.
Proud of you.
Thank you.
And also a reminder that you have to believe in the possibility.
I think that's
step number 1.
That's so huge. And, I think with trading, because I see people every day, who gamble or they don't really trust that they're going to figure it out. And it's kind of like, oh, I hope I figure this out. And, 99% of all traders fail. They're not profitable. And for me, it was the understanding I have to go into this knowing I am profitable. I will figure it out. It's just when I get there, when I get there. And I think there's a lot of there's issues there because people, you're on a stream. It's like a live trading session. So people see other people take a trade and then they're like, I missed that. Am I any good? And they start comparing themselves and FOMOing into trades and things like that. So I think for where I'm at in my life to have figured it out now, I feel like now was the time for me to figure it out. If I did it in the past, I don't think I would have.
Yeah.
I know a lot about subconscious programming and all that. So to go into it with the beliefs that I had that I could do this very difficult thing that a very small percentage of people figure out. And a lot of that came from you, knowing the psychology behind it. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. I've blabbed enough. Let's get into it.
So we're talking about the power of saying no and kind of finding the confidence to do that without experiencing so much shame and guilt by making that decision to say no. And that can mean in many different areas of your life. This is a topic we've definitely mentioned and talked about in different episodes before, such as our episode on boundaries or people pleasing. There's other types of boundaries to set and there's other ways you could be people pleasing. So we're kind of just focusing on like literally saying no.
Yeah, and I think, it's something that you hear people say a lot as like as I got older, right? And it's kind of this the difference of like people burn themselves out when they just like say, "Oh, I'll go do this. I'll go to that birthday party. I'll go help my friend move. I'll go to this random meeting. I'll go to an event. Like I'm going to go to that concert, that sports game." And then you're just slam packed and you're saying yes to everything.
Right. And then it comes at the expense of kind of saying no to yourself.
Yeah. And that's the big thing. And I think people kind of think like almost like there's something wrong with just sitting at home. And it's like, don't get me wrong, like some extroverted people would prefer to be out and about, and that's fine. But I think if you are craving alone time or peace and quiet, like, it's no secret. Like, that's me. That's what I like. And I like to be alone in my home with my family. But I think if you're craving that and you're not honoring that or respecting that or taking actions and making decisions to get you toward that, that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah, but it's also, and I've shared this before too, like it's taking that time to just like be home and have peace and quiet and like space to yourself. But it could also mean I had experienced this in the past where I like had plans to go to the gym or something. And then I ended up being asked to go do something after work, go to a happy hour or something. And it's
Yeah.
like I just felt pressured into saying yes. And then I was saying no to myself for the things that I had planned for me.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't feel good.
No, and it's kind of like, how long does that go on? How long do you um make those decisions knowing it's not what you truly want?
Yeah. And one big thing that I've learned, and we'll get into this, but um you don't always have to say like, no, I'm sorry.
Mm,
And I say I'm sorry way too much. It's something I
yeah.
still am trying to be mindful of. But sometimes I can catch myself like, a friend invited me to go somewhere recently and I took a while to like form a response because it just like didn't feel right. It wasn't the right time for me. I had things going on. And instead of saying like, no, I'm so sorry, I said like, no, but thank you so much for the invitation. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, right? Because like if you have a situation where someone is inviting you, right? And you just have no desire to do it, I think a lot of times people are like, "Oh, well, they're being nice. I should say yes." If you don't, and you know, if it's not an F yes, it's an F no,
Mhm.
So like I think about it in that sense of like, if it doesn't feel right, it's not something you want to do. You're not obligated to say yes. But to your point, you can take the time to let the person know you really appreciate the invite.
Right.
Like when, I think it was your brother-in-law invited me to go golfing, like the day
Mm.
before their wedding or something, the day of their wedding.
Yeah.
And I don't golf. I am very interested in learning how to golf for the business skill of it, but I wasn't going to hold him up on his wedding day. And so I said to him, like, I'm going to pass, but I really appreciate the invite,
Yeah.
And I think it's just being willing to prioritize yourself and set a boundary that makes sense for you without apologizing for how it affects the other person.
Yeah, and like you're taking care of yourself. That is literally a form of self care. It's not selfish
Right.
to make a decision that is in your best interest. It's not selfish
No,
to say no to something that you don't want to do, or if you're asked to help with something and you just can't. Maybe your back hurts. Maybe you're really busy at work. Maybe you have something else going on. Whatever it is, like saying no because of your own health, mental health, physical health, emotional health, like that is
yeah.
self care to yourself. That's not selfish because someone else asked you to do something and you're saying no.
Yeah. And I mean, that's something that for me, kind of in trading, right? Like I had a day where I was off and I didn't set those boundaries. I didn't really protect my mental state the way I needed to, and it affected my trading. And it's something that when you really start to prioritize what's important to you, but also protect your health in that way, it becomes easier because you start to see the rewards, the benefits of truly prioritizing yourself. And we
Mhm.
always say this, but you can't pour from an empty cup. So it's not about selfishness, selflessness. It's you taking care of yourself so that you can show up the best you can for other people when you are able to and when you are, in that mindset, that state of being to show up for others.
Right. And like I mentioned, people pleasing. And I feel like if you are someone who has tended to people please, I'm sure many people can relate. The kind of desire to like apologize for your decision, if you're someone who has people pleased, is a pretty common thing.
Yeah.
And so that's when you have to really take a moment and be like, no, there's nothing to actually be sorry for. This is just my decision.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's someone who cares about you and loves you no matter what, like they're not going to question it. That's just your decision.
Right. And they would respect that.
Yeah.
So I think then it kind of becomes, how do you do this? And I think it really always goes back to that piece that we always say is like, it starts with awareness.
Yeah.
And that's, being able to ask yourself, like, first of all, how does this feel? Is this something I want to do? And that doesn't mean like you just don't do anything you don't want to do. I mean, that's just life. There's going to be stuff that isn't like you're ecstatic about.
Right.
But if it's something that is going to affect your health or your ability to take care of yourself, or I mean, even like going home and cleaning the house, like for us to organize our space, that is something we would prioritize over other things because having an orderly home and an orderly space is important to us and helps us feel better.
Right.
So I think it really just comes down to like how you're prioritizing yourself and, what is the decision that you're making when you're asked to go do something?
Yeah. And that comes with, really knowing yourself and like listening to your body. Like your body speaks to you. Your body is intelligent in the way that it knows how you feel. Like
your intuition.
Yeah. And your gut, like that gut feeling that you get. And being able to ask yourself, am I just a little nervous about something? That's something I can get through and that's okay.
Right.
And it is actually still something I want to do. Or is it something that like just feels like a no for this situation, whatever it is? And if it is, then it is what it is.
Yeah. And I think a great example of that and something that you and I have been through a lot was when we started our marketing agency, like we were just going to so many meetings. It was networking with people 3, 5, 7 times a week. It was professional events and networking events and, one-on-ones. And it was great for a while. And that was, to your point, we had situations where it was like, okay, a little bit of nervousness, but we can get through that. And as we got deeper into it, it was that there were, kind of these cliques in the networking events that we were going to. And it was clear we were on the outside of the clique. And we were kind of like, okay, no, it's an F no now, And so we set that boundary. We stopped going and we pursued other means of networking and doing things. Another example is, with that, we also had our MMA training. You had courses you were doing, and I was trying to figure out music, and our schedule got to a point where there was so much, and we were no longer able to prioritize ourselves. And that was really when we took a big step back. We sat down together and we said, what can we actually do?
Yeah.
And what is important? And that was, the moment for me personally where I said, okay, it's MMA or music, and it's got to be music for me. And so it's also, I think, to that point, something that is always in motion. Like you're always going to have to juggle things and figure things out in terms of what is a yes, what's a no. But that's just a constant state of change in your life.
Yeah, something else that I thought of, and I think we might have shared in the past too, but like if you decide to say no to an opportunity, like I'll never forget the one opportunity that we had, and it was maybe a year into running our marketing business, and it really was going to be like a big contract, a lot of money, like steady income. It was like what we were looking for. And we were like, okay, this is it.
It was more money than we'd ever made in our business. And we were very close. We were getting started. Sorry, continue. I cut you off.
It's okay. No, like we started working with this client, and then as more time went on, like expectations were not being clearly outlined for us. And then like they weren't hearing what we were able to offer. And then we just started to realize like this is not going
Yeah.
to be in alignment, and it's a great opportunity. But if we say yes to something that doesn't feel good, it's going to feel worse.
Yeah.
And saying yes just out of like the fear of not having another opportunity like this or the money was going to set us up to feel worse.
Yeah. And I think I want to dive a little deeper into that because that was a really learning, teachable moment, because we were offered more money than we'd ever made in our businesses. And we initially said yes. And what happened was it kind of came to light that they were expecting us to fill a position, and they didn't communicate that they weren't actually asking Kate, they were asking me, and that they were then needing me on the team calls. And there were a lot of things that weren't communicated. Now, the larger red flag was that there were situations there where they didn't really respect our business. They didn't, were getting our name wrong, and they weren't really paying attention to a lot of things. We would communicate like what we were able to help with, and they weren't really taking the time to read or respond to what the discussion was. And so we had this gut feeling of like, something's off here. I don't think that this is the great thing that we thought it was. And so we decided to, part ways with that and not move forward with a contract because our intuition was telling us this isn't right, and so we walked away from that. But to your point, we could have led with fear there and been like, well, I got to make it work because I need the money.
Right.
And I think that would have been such a miserable process. And especially when they wanted us full time when we communicated that wasn't, on the table.
Yeah. So, how can you confidently say no without feeling guilty? I think that saying no can sometimes like you need to actually just practice saying no.
Yeah. I
Like
mean,
say no to small things. If you are asked to do something, to go somewhere or whatever it is, and you just don't want to do it, like say like no, I thank you for the opportunity, thank you for the invitation, or just no, I'm unable to make that today. And you don't owe like a full explanation. No is a full sentence. However,
yep.
if you want to be like cordial and a little more kind, you don't have to explain yourself and give a reason, but you could say, no, thank you so much, though.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. I think that's really important, right? Obviously get practice with it. And I think start there, right? Some things feel a little smaller and you might be more inclined to say no there and start there. Um, I also really like this in the sense of giving your yes. Um, and I don't know, this sounds a little like narcissistic, but like, yeah, but like, think of it this way. You're an important person. You're bestowing your presence upon someone, right? Like your life is so important to you. You don't need to go and give that to everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just about valuing yourself and valuing your time.
Right, right. And I think that when you flip the script of not everything's a yes because I respect my time, I respect who I am, I respect what I want to do, it puts those no's into a very different perspective, right? If I am willing to give you my yes, I'm going to be there, I'm going to be present with you, and I'm giving you my presence, and we're making that memory together. Not everything is a yes. I
Mhm.
don't want to do absolutely everything that I could say yes to.
Right.
So maybe not narcissistic. That's a bad word, but
It's not a bad word. It's just
you're,
a word that's been used a lot in the past few
yeah,
years online, I feel like, and
yeah,
it's not well explained.
yeah. I think just think of it in the sense of like you're an important person, you know, your time is valuable.
Yeah, I mean, you're the most important person in your own life. If you're
Absolutely.
not, then
What are you doing? Yeah,
can't prioritize everyone else above you. You got to come first. So,
yeah, absolutely. Anything else?
no, I think that's it.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.